The Nazis had a name for their most wanted Allied spy in France. They called her the Limping Lady. This mysterious woman was a phantom, organizing resistance networks right under their noses. She moved like a shadow through the streets of Lyon, coordinating sabotage and gathering vital intelligence. The Gestapo, the feared Nazi secret police, were desperate to find her. They put up posters and offered rewards, but she always seemed to be one step ahead. They considered her the most dangerous of all Allied spies, a constant thorn in their side. Little did they know, this formidable agent was an American woman who had been underestimated her entire life, a woman named Virginia Hall. Virginia was not the typical image of a spy. She walked with a noticeable limp, a detail the Nazis fixated on. This limp was the result of a prosthetic leg she had affectionately named Cuthbert. The story of Cuthbert began years before the war, during a hunting trip in Turkey. A terrible accident led to the amputation of her left leg below the knee. In an instant, her world changed forever. For many, this would have been a devastating, life-altering setback. It was a physical challenge that could have easily ended her ambitions. But for Virginia Hall, it was not an end. It was the beginning of a new kind of strength, a resilience forged in pain and determination. This challenge did not break Virginia, it made her stronger. She learned to walk, to climb, and to live with Cuthbert. She refused to let her physical limitation define her or hold her back from her dreams. Her dream was to serve her country as a diplomat, to work in the U.S. Foreign Service. The accident, however, created an unexpected barrier. The U.S. State Department had a strict policy against hiring anyone with a disability, deeming them unfit for service. They saw her wooden leg as a weakness, a liability. They failed to see the iron will and unbreakable spirit that came with it. They saw the disability, not the ability. This rejection was a deep disappointment for Virginia. She had proven her capabilities and her intelligence, yet a rule stood in her way. But Virginia was not one to accept defeat. If her own country would not have her, she would find someone who would. Her determination only grew stronger in the face of this obstacle. When World War II broke out, she saw a new path. She traveled to London and offered her services to the British. The Special Operations Executive, a new and daring intelligence organization, recognized her potential. They saw her fluency in French, her courage, and her fierce resolve. They offered her a chance to do what she was born to do, fight for freedom. Virginia arrived in Nazi-occupied France in August 1941. She was one of the first female agents the SOE sent into the field. To move around without suspicion, she needed a convincing cover story. She disguised herself as a correspondent for the New York Post. This role gave her a legitimate reason to travel, to ask questions, and to meet with different people. As an American reporter, she could blend in, observing the German occupation while appearing to be just another journalist documenting the war. It was the perfect disguise. It allowed her to build a network of contacts and gather information without raising immediate alarm from the authorities, who were busy hunting for spies. Underneath the reporter's persona, Virginia was a master organizer. She was not just collecting information, she was building the French resistance from the ground up. She found loyal men and women who were willing to risk their lives to fight back against the Nazis. She provided them with money, weapons, and training. She established safe houses for agents and escape routes for downed Allied pilots. Her codename was Marie, and soon, her network, known as Heckler, became one of the most effective in all of France. She was the central hub, the quiet leader who coordinated countless acts of defiance and sabotage against the occupying forces. Her work was incredibly dangerous. Every day was a gamble. The Gestapo was everywhere, and betrayal was a constant threat. Virginia had to be careful with every step she took, especially with her distinctive limp. She used her cleverness to turn this potential weakness into an advantage. She would change her appearance often, sometimes disguising herself as an old milkmaid, using her limp to make her seem frail and harmless. She would hobble through a German checkpoint, appearing as a simple countrywoman, while secretly carrying vital documents or radio parts. Her ability to transform herself was key to her survival and the success of her missions. One of her most important tasks was helping downed Allied airmen escape. When a British or American plane was shot down, the pilots who survived would be hunted by the Germans. Virginia and her network would find these men, hide them, and guide them on a perilous journey over the Pyrenees Mountains to the safety of neutral Spain. This was a lifeline for the Allied forces, returning experienced pilots to the fight. Each successful escape was a victory, a symbol of hope in a dark time. It was a testament to Virginia's courage and her incredible organizational skills, all performed under the constant shadow of capture and death. As Virginia's network grew in strength, so did the Gestapo's obsession with catching her. The infamous Gestapo chief in Lyon, Klaus Barbie, known as the Butcher of Lyon, was personally hunting for the Limping lady. He knew she was the brain behind the local resistance and dedicated immense resources to her capture. The danger became too great. Her network was compromised and the Gestapo was closing in. The SOE ordered her to escape France immediately. Her journey to safety was an ordeal in itself. She had to cross the snow-covered Pyrenees Mountains in the dead of winter, a brutal trek for anyone, let alone for someone with a prosthetic leg. During the grueling mountain crossing, Cuthbert became a heavy burden. The cold was intense and the physical strain was almost unbearable. At one point, she sent a message to her SOE contact in London expressing her frustration. She complained that Cuthbert was giving her trouble. Her contact, not understanding that Cuthbert was her wooden leg, replied with a cold and unsympathetic message. "If Cuthbert is giving you trouble, have him eliminated." The story, while born of a misunderstanding, highlights the isolation and immense pressure she faced. She was truly on her own, fighting not just the enemy, but the very elements and her own physical limits. After her harrowing escape, Virginia did not rest. She made her way to the American Office of Strategic Services, the forerunner to the CIA. This time, they did not turn her away. They had heard of her legendary work in France and eagerly recruited her. They recognized the incredible asset they had previously overlooked. Virginia insisted on returning to occupied France, despite the extreme danger. The Gestapo knew her face and her limp now. Returning was almost a suicide mission, but she was determined to finish the fight. The OSS agreed, and she prepared for her second mission, more dangerous than the first. To return to France, she had to once again rely on her talent for disguise. She trained to be a radio operator and transformed her appearance. She dyed her hair, changed her style of dress, and even had a dentist grind down her teeth to alter her features. She disguised herself as an elderly farm woman, using her limp to her advantage once more to appear harmless and unremarkable. In 1944, she was secretly dropped back into France. She was no longer Marie the reporter. She was a ghost, a woman of no importance in the eyes of the enemy, ready to organize a new wave of resistance ahead of the D-Day landings. Back in France, Virginia's work was more critical than ever. As the Allies prepared for the invasion of Normandy, her mission was to arm and train French resistance fighters, called Maquis, in central France. Working under the codename Diane, she coordinated parachute drops of weapons and supplies. She taught the fighters how to conduct guerrilla warfare, how to blow up bridges, derail trains, and disrupt German communications and supply lines. Her leadership was direct and hands-on. She was not a distant commander giving orders from a safe location. She was on the ground, sharing the risks with her fighters, earning their trust and admiration. Her efforts had a tremendous impact on the war. The resistance groups she organized wreaked havoc on the German army. They tied up thousands of German troops who could have otherwise been sent to fight the Allied forces at Normandy. The intelligence she gathered and sent back to London was invaluable, providing critical details about German troop movements and defenses. She became a legendary figure among the French resistance, a symbol of defiance and hope. Her courage inspired those around her to keep fighting, even when the situation seemed hopeless. She proved that one person, driven by conviction, could indeed change the course of history. For her extraordinary bravery, Virginia Hall became the only civilian woman to receive the Distinguished Service Cross in World War II. When President Truman wanted to present the award to her publicly, she humbly declined. She was still a secret agent and insisted on a private ceremony, saying she was still operational and most anxious to get on with the job. She continued to work for the CIA after the war, a testament to her lifelong dedication to service. Her story was largely unknown for decades, hidden in classified files, a secret kept even from her own family. She was the quiet hero, the spy who never sought the spotlight. Virginia Hall's legacy is one of pure, unyielding courage. She faced down every obstacle placed in her path, a life-changing injury, rejection from her own country, and the constant threat of a brutal enemy. She never gave up. She showed the world